Thanksgiving morning, and the city skyline glittered outside my office window, like it didn't know today was supposed to hurt. I was perched on the edge of my leather chair, silk blouse pressed perfectly, hair pinned in the kind of polished bun I used to dream about when I was younger. Everything about me looked put together. But then my phone buzzed. I didn't need to look to know who it was. Still, I swiped the screen and read the message anyway. Thanksgiving is family only. Find somewhere else to eat.
Mom.
I stared at the words until they blurred. Family only. As if I hadn't spent my whole life proving I belonged, as if blood wasn't enough to count me in. I set the phone face down on my desk and exhaled slowly. The office was quiet except for the faint hum of the heater and the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Down below, the streets were alive with traffic, delivery trucks rushing turkeys and pies across town. Families gathering, laughing, setting tables. And me? I was here. In the office I built from scratch. In the life no one believed I could create. There was a sting, yes, there always was when it came to my mother. But under the sting was something sharper.
Pride.
A hard-earned, quiet pride that whispered, "You don't need their table. You built your own." Still, I couldn't help it. The little girl inside me pressed her face against the glass of memory, asking why she was never enough to be called family. The text pulled me back to a night when I was 17, sitting at the edge of our worn-out sofa, heart pounding like it might crack through my ribs. The living room smelled like overcooked green beans and lemon cleaner, my mother's way of scrubbing imperfections she couldn't hide. That night was supposed to be simple, just dinner. But I had dared to bring up the college acceptance letter I'd received. A full ride. Journalism. My dream. Dad sat in his recliner, silent as always, eyes glued to the evening news. My older brother, Luke, leaned against the wall, smirking, twirling a football in his hands. And Mom, well, she stood with her arms folded, her lips pressed so tight the lines around her mouth looked carved in stone. "Rachel," she said, her voice sharp enough to slice through the air, "you don't need to run off chasing some fantasy. What you need is to stay close to home. Maybe take some classes at community college. Find something practical. Journalism doesn't feed you. Family does." The words burned. My hands trembled in my lap, fingers twisting the silver bracelet Grandma June had given me before she passed. "For when you need to be brave," she'd whispered. That bracelet was the only thing keeping me from crumbling. "I got a full scholarship," I said softly, forcing my chin up. "I won't need your help. Just your support." Luke laughed under his breath. "Support? Don't expect me to read your little articles. Nobody cares what you think." The lump in my throat nearly choked me, but I swallowed hard and forced the words out anyway. "Someone will." Mom's eyes narrowed, her judgment landing heavy. "If you walk out chasing this nonsense, don't come crawling back when you fail. You hear me? This family doesn't do failures." I remember standing up then, legs shaking, but heart surging with something I never felt before, defiance. The bracelet on my wrist caught the light, almost winking at me. Grandma's courage. My courage. I walked past Luke's smirk, past Dad's silence, past Mom's disappointment. My suitcase was already packed upstairs. That night, I left home with a single duffel bag, a scholarship letter folded in my coat pocket, and the silver bracelet wrapped tight around my wrist. I told myself I would never crawl back. I would rise, so high they'd have to look up to see me. The first year away from home felt like standing in the middle of a storm with nothing but an umbrella full of holes. College was harder than I imagined. Not the classes, I devoured those, but the loneliness. Nights in a dorm where no one knew me. Ramen dinners. Crying in the bathroom so my roommate wouldn't hear. Every time the doubt crept in, every time I wondered if Mom had been right, I would twist that silver bracelet on my wrist until the metal dug into my skin. "Be brave," I'd hear Grandma's voice whisper. Money was always tight, even with the scholarship. I worked at the campus coffee shop, brewing lattes while listening to other students talk about their families visiting for the weekend. Mine never called. Not once. But life has a strange way of placing people in your path when you're ready for them. Her name was Diane Reynolds, professor of media studies. sharp eyes behind round glasses, with a voice that carried authority without cruelty. She noticed me staying late in the library, polishing articles for the school paper. One night, she placed a hand on my shoulder and said, "Rachel, you've got a fire. Don't let anyone smother it." That was the first time I believed my dream wasn't just a fantasy. With her guidance, I started freelancing, tiny pieces for local papers, barely enough to buy groceries, but enough to feel real. The first time I saw my name in print, I sat on the floor of my dorm room and cried, clutching the paper like it was gold. Of course, there were failures too. Editors rejecting my pitches, people talking over me in meetings, landlords slamming doors when rent was late. I remember staring at my chipped nail polish one night before an interview, thinking, you can't even keep your nails together. How are you going to keep your life together? But somehow, I kept showing up. Piece by piece, opportunity by opportunity, things shifted. A news outlet picked up my freelance column. Then a small magazine offered me a steady paycheck. I moved into a shoebox apartment with squeaky floors and a leaky faucet, but it was mine. The turning point came 5 years later when I took a leap no one expected. I launched my own digital media company. Just me, a laptop, and an idea. Stories that gave a voice to people like me, the ones told they didn't belong at the table. It wasn't glamorous. In the beginning, I worked 18-hour days, answering emails at dawn, editing articles past midnight. There were months I thought the company would collapse. But then one viral story. Then another. Advertisers called. Investors followed. And slowly, Rachel Morgan, the girl who wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving, became Rachel Morgan, founder and CEO of a media brand that millions read every month. I didn't flaunt it. Online, I kept my updates simple, doing well, or keeping busy. My family probably pictured me in a dingy apartment, scraping by. That was fine. Let them. Because behind the curtain, I was building an empire. And every time I looked out from my high-rise office at the city that once scared me, I smiled. I had made it. Without them. Thanksgiving night settled over the city like a velvet curtain. From my office window, I could see apartments glowing warm with dinners and laughter. Somewhere out there, my family was gathered around Mom's polished oak table, passing mashed potatoes, pretending I didn't exist. But fate has a funny way of rewriting the script. At 7 o'clock sharp, my assistant buzzed through the intercom. "Rachel, there's a group here asking for you. They don't have an appointment, but they say they're your family." My stomach flipped. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. But then I heard her voice, Mom's, through the glass doors of the lobby. Sharp, commanding, exactly the same as when she told me I wasn't enough. I almost told security to send them away. Almost. But instead, I said, "Let them up." Minutes later, the elevator doors slid open. And there they were, Mom in her pressed beige coat, Dad looking smaller than I remembered, Luke in his casual arrogance, a woman I assumed was his wife hovering at his side. They walked into my office like tourists entering a museum, their eyes darting from the marble floors to the oversized abstract painting on the wall. Luke whistled low. "Wow. Fancy." I leaned back against my desk, arms crossed, watching them absorb it all. I didn't offer hugs. Didn't rush to fill the silence. I let them feel the weight of the space, the city view stretching behind me, the shelves lined with awards, the brass nameplate on my desk. Rachel Morgan, CEO. Mom finally found her voice. "Rachel, this is your office?" "Last I checked," I said smoothly. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the polished wood, the fresh flowers arranged in crystal vases, the leather chairs worth more than her entire dining set. She was searching for cracks, something to dismiss. But there weren't any. Dad cleared his throat. We didn't realize," his voice trailed off. Luke smirked, though I saw the flicker of unease in his eyes. "So, you've been playing big shot, huh? Guess journalism paid off after all." I let a pause stretch before answering. "This isn't journalism. It's my company. I built it from the ground up. The building we're standing in? I own it." The words landed like a thunderclap. Silence pressed heavy around us. Mom's lips parted, but no sound came. For once, her authority crumbled. She looked at me not as the daughter she dismissed, but as someone she no longer recognized. I stepped forward, my heels clicking against the marble. You told me journalism was a fantasy, that I'd come crawling back when I failed. But I didn't fail. I rose higher than you ever thought possible. Luke shifted uncomfortably. His wife glanced at him, then at me, wide-eyed. Dad sank into one of the chairs, running a hand down his face. He looked tired, defeated. Finally, Mom spoke, her voice tight. Rachel, we didn't know. We thought that I'd disappear? I cut in. That I'd prove you right? That I wasn't strong enough without you. I shook my head. I didn't need your seat at the table. I built my own. The room fell into silence again, broken only by the faint ticking of the wall clock. I let them sit with the truth, their shame hanging heavy. For the first time in my life, they were the ones on the outside looking in. And I, Rachel Morgan, the daughter who was never enough, finally had the power. The silence stretched until I decided to break it. You came here tonight for a reason, I said, my tone calm but unyielding. So tell me why now? Why after years of ignoring me? Luke shifted in his seat, running a hand over his jaw. We hit some rough patches. The company I was working for shut down. Bills are piling up. Mom thought maybe you could help. There it was. Not an apology. Not a recognition of the years I'd spent clawing my way up alone. Just need. Mom's chin lifted, though her voice faltered. Rachel, family helps family. You know that. I let out a short laugh. Family? You sent me a text today telling me Thanksgiving was family only. Remember? Her face flushed. She looked away. I walked slowly across the room, each step deliberate. You didn't want me at your table. But now that you're hungry, you want a seat at mine. No one spoke. Even Dad avoided my eyes. I leaned against the window, the city lights glittering behind me. Here's the truth. I could help you. Financially, it wouldn't cost me a fraction of what I've built. But money isn't the issue. Respect is. Luke frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said, meeting his gaze, if you want anything from me, if you want a relationship, support, even a second chance, you do it on my terms. No more belittling me. No more pretending I don't exist until I'm useful. You will treat me as an equal, or you will walk out that door the same way I once did. Luke opened his mouth, then shut it, his bravado collapsing. I turned to Dad. And silence can wound just as much as words. You sat there all those years and let them cut me down. If you want a place in my life, you'll have to find your voice. Stand for something. His eyes dropped to the floor, shame written across his face. Finally, I faced Mom, the hardest one, the one who had shaped so much of my pain. And you don't get to control me anymore. You don't get to decide when I'm family and when I'm not. If you want a seat at my table, it won't be because you think you deserve it. It will be because you earn it with honesty, with respect, with love. Nothing less. Her lips trembled. For the first time, she didn't have a sharp retort. I stepped back, my voice steady. The choice is yours. You can walk out and pretend this never happened. Or you can stay and start changing the way you've treated me. But I won't bend. Not anymore. The weight of my words hung in the air. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the girl begging to be accepted. I was the woman setting the conditions. And they knew it. No one spoke at first. The city lights flickered against the glass, casting their faces in shifting shadows, like the past itself trying to cling to them. Then, to my surprise, it was Dad who broke the silence. His voice was low, rough. She's right. He looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. We failed you, Rachel. I failed you. Something in me softened, though I kept my arms folded. He wasn't off the hook. But hearing those words cracked something open. Luke rubbed the back of his neck. His wife reached for his hand, squeezing it. He finally muttered, I was a jerk to you. I know that. I don't have an excuse. It wasn't much, but it was more than I'd ever expected to hear. Mom, though, she stayed quiet, her face tight, pride warring with something else. Her hands trembled slightly, and for once, she didn't have a weaponized word to throw at me. I walked to my desk and picked up the silver bracelet I had taken off earlier, the one Grandma June had given me. I held it in my palm, letting the light catch on its worn edges. "This," I said softly, "is the only thing that kept me brave enough to keep going when you told me I wasn't enough." Grandma believed in me when no one else did. And I built this life, carrying her voice with me. Mom's eyes flickered to the bracelet, and for a moment, I saw her facade falter. Just a moment. I slipped the bracelet back onto my wrist, its familiar weight grounding me. "I'm not asking for perfection," I continued. "I'm asking for respect. If you want to be part of my life now, it has to be real. No conditions. No favoritism. No pretending." The room stayed heavy, but it was a different kind of heavy, one filled with possibility, not just pain. Dad nodded slowly. Luke's wife gave me a small, almost grateful smile. Even Luke looked down, ashamed. Mom finally whispered, barely audible, "We'll try." It wasn't everything, but it was a start. I turned toward the window again. The city spread out beneath me. The skyline looked endless, limitless, the way my future had felt the night I walked away with nothing but a suitcase and a bracelet. I smiled to myself, because no matter what they chose, I had already won. Grandma's words echoed in my heart, "Be brave." And I was. "Thanksgiving may be family only," I said, voice steady, strong, certain. "But I've learned family isn't just the people who share your blood. It's the ones who choose to sit at your table with love."